Hello, everybody. I hope I didn't blow out everybody's eardrums with that one, and the mic is all good. This race, the 2025 Straight Talk Wireless 400, was brought to you by the letter L, because it wasn't the letter B for a winner for the first time. We are not in the garage. Hold on. Hold on. Let me make sure. I'll fix it. Don't worry. All right. Is it better? Let me know if it's better. I don't know what's going on with it. I plugged everything in. So, but I will back it on up. Okay. I turned it down a little bit just so I don't blow anyone else's ears out again and don't have that problem. So, not in the garage tonight. Storm's rolling through the area. So we need to make sure everything is all good. Plus at home with my parents and all that. Awesome. We're good. We're good. Awesome. What did you think of this race? This is actually the room that the podcast started in, by the way. So it is the famous iceberg room, as Spencer is saying. Let me know out of 10 what you thought of this race. 10 being last year's Homestead race, 0 or 1 being not last year's Homestead race. Very bad. Let me know in the chat. I saw a lot of people that were pretty upset overall with it. But at the same time, I saw a lot of people that were very happy with it. I kind of figured that this was going to happen. We were going to probably have some kind of race that was not going to be on the par or the level that a lot of people wanted after what we got last year. I mean, last year we had absolute cinema at Homestead. We had an amazing race at Homestead, just through and through the entire way, the finish, everything worked out perfectly. This one to me is just a kind of a normal Homestead race. I did want to ask you guys, and I guess why for yes and for no. Do you think it's harder to pass now? Because honestly, it feels harder to pass and everything. And I'm just listening in the background. The wind is howling past here. Luckily, the mic isn't picking it up, I don't think. But I honestly do think it's getting harder to pass with the next gen race car at these 1.5 miles. We haven't talked about it because still the racing I think is pretty good. But when you have what we had from 22 and 23 especially, and even a lot of last year, Donnie, I think, kind of puts it right. I mean, it definitely was a track position race, which Homestead can be a lot, but the good cars can still move their way through, which is positive of all of it. But I know a lot of people definitely have feelings about this race for different reasons, various reasons. The biggest one I think is because the 2025 Straight Talk Wireless 400 was won by Kyle Larson after 267 laps, 3 hours, 2 minutes, 12-second run time, 4 cautions for 27 laps and 27 lead changes. Larson wins by 1.2 seconds over Alex Bowman. Bubba Wallace third. Fourth is Briscoe. Then Hamlin rounds out the top 5. Solid run for Denny Hamlin today in that progressive machine that we'll see a lot this year. Buscher 6th, Allmendinger 7th, Reddick, Preece, and Justin Haley round out the top 10. Great runs again for Preece, but also a good run here for Justin Haley with the top 10. Zane Smith recovers from an early speeding penalty to 11th. Recovery as well for William Byron to a 12th place run after his late penalty. Austin Dillon, a solid enough 13th place finish. Joey Logano, 14th on the day. Had a few issues, but still top 15's it again. Still searching, I believe, for that first top 10 of the year. Then Eric Jones, a top 15 with 15th position. 16th goes to Noah Gragson. 17th is last week's winner, Josh Berry. Chase Elliott, I'd argue probably the slowest of the Hendrick guys. Nowhere really to be found too much of this race. 18th position for Mr. Popular. Then 19th for Cindric. 20th for Michael McDowell. Kyle Busch. Hey, Kyle Busch fans, good news and bad news. Good news is your driver was at the top of his game in this race. Top position he could be in all day at the finish. The bad news, that was 21st, but he got a lead lap finish, so hang the banner. Daniel Suarez spun out on pit road a little bit today. 22nd position on the day. 23rd for John Hunter Nemechek, our random driver of the week this past weekend on WP. And then Ricky Stenhouse rounds out part of the top 25, 24, 25th on the lead lap. Ty Gibbs. It's not in the 30s, so improvement Not really. Brad Keselowski, a lap down in 26th. Ty Dillon, 27th, a lap down. Same for Cole Custer. Dismal day for Christopher Bell. 2 weeks ago, we were singing this guy's praises as a second coming of Christ as a driver. 29th, a lap down. Completely bad run off the map all day. Todd Gilliland, late pit stop, relegates him to a 30th place finish, a lap down. 31st, a lap down as well for Ross Chastain. And 32nd, last on the lead lap. I knew that he was not going to perform today. He was my suck pick this week. Shane Van Gisbergen, praying that we can get to another road course race soon. 2 laps down for Riley Herbst in 33rd. Cody Ware, 2 down in 34th. JJ Yaley, 35th. 4 laps down, last on track. And the last 2 of these guys, for different reasons, DNF, 36th. 2 DNFs for engine issues in the last 3 races for Ryan Blaney, another bad finish for him. And 37th, last on the day, Carson Hocevar with different electrical issues and internal issues in the car, could not get it fixed. Last place finish today for Carson after, I don't know if you guys saw, but he and NASCAR had a really awesome promo when it came to this race, with like a GTA style promo that was really fun. But that is your finishing order. We'll put them on the bottom. I double checked, but I probably spelled somebody's name wrong. You know the drill. If I did, let me know. Let's talk about some of the big points of the race. We'll start with Kyle Larson, who was one bad Sam Mayer push away from a weekend sweep. A lot of us, I think, saw that kind of good run coming for sure. I wish Bowman hadn't hit the wall. Not because I didn't want Larson to win or I wanted Bowman to win. I would have been fine either way. Have no bias towards one or the other. I like them both as people. Good race car drivers. I just think Alex Bowman, if he had held that high line, made Larson do a slider, Larson probably, I think, gets this win. But I would have loved to have seen the race between those two. I would have loved to have seen Larson try and pass him cleanly, and then, Bowman trying to take the line away, and then maybe trying to get into it, the tough race in between the two of them. I would have loved to have seen that. We can call Bowman a choker, and I get that. Larson got in the wall too and kept it going pretty good, but Larson, they said it was all about timing on the broadcast today, and the drivers have said it's all about timing at the end of these races, who's hot, who's not. Bubba Wallace was up there in the top 3, finished 3rd today, and he was kind of banking on Bowman slowing down, and never happened. And the 23 ultimately kind of just fell back once the 5 got past him. But we're not surprised that Kyle Larson's going to get a win. I think it's just, like they said on the broadcast, we're surprised how he got the win. I'm scrolling through the pack here, and we'll talk about Ryan Blaney's 124 laps led and engine failure in a bit. This is definitely one that got away, but you're looking through the pack too, and Denny Hamlin, 15 laps led. Bubba Wallace, 56 laps led today. Alex Bowman, 43 laps led. Kyle Larson, 19. This was not a green to checkers domination from lap 1 to lap 267 by the 5 team. They were up there. They had speed, but Larson was making mistakes getting into the wall. There were clear mistakes being made. And yes, Timmy, in the style of David Land, it's another Kyle Larson video. And someone can edit that for me and put that in the style of David. But I would have loved to have seen that run, but Kyle Larson now being locked in, you knew he was going to sooner or later. That team's too good. The driver's too good. They're both on it. It's kind of, to me, similar with Bell, similar. And for a lot of years, a lot of people are kind of questioning it now with Denny Hamlin, where the win's coming early in the year. You don't freak out until it, finally happens. So there is that, but I'll say, the race itself, I'll probably give a 6 on all honesty. It had great moments and high highs, but there were definitely some times where you could see it was incredibly tough to pass. The racing itself. Let's talk about the passing and the next gen car. A lot of people were saying yes when I asked this question. A lot of people saying maybe, and I'm going to say it. I don't think the racing on the mile and a half is bad at this point. In fact, I think that, we go to Kansas, it'll be a banger. I think that when we go to some of the other mile and a halves, I think even Texas will probably be better than years past. The racing has actually improved each year for what it's worth. Low bar, I get it, but it has improved a little bit. But I do think that we're gonna, I think, get into this range where the teams are gonna figure stuff out. We don't have enough track time either, and you're just gonna get closer and closer with the parity side of it. And I get this point too. Where to go? Timmy with another one here. Not every race is going to be good. I get that. I get that not every race is going to be good. That is just the ebb and the flow of a season. I think it's just that we want these races to be so good at mile and a halves. And I get the short tracks are getting better. I personally think the super speedway packages for Daytona, Talladega getting better. Road courses, I think, are bit by bit. I mean, COTA was really, really fun, especially the finish of that race. And there was real passing and strategy with it. But when you take the strategy side of it out, it is very difficult without somebody making a mistake to get by. You have to do some bold moves, and those are fun. Those are really fun. But I saw a lot of discourse today about, the fact that, like, this is why we don't need to go back to Homestead for the finale. And I don't think so. Just because it's kind of one relatively, not even fully, just relatively dull race for Homestead standards does not mean that we don't need to go there. Like, what is the better alternative that an ISC most likely owned track that we can go to? Like Kansas, yeah, but a lot of people complain about the weather. NASCAR fans are a bit soft with that. Not meaning any offense by it, but when you look at other sports fans, and there you can hear the little yapper dog barking, good old Coco. Shut the hell up. But when you look at some of the other ones, I mean, I don't think there's much better of an option right now. And I think the racing still is going to be pretty good. I think the racing for a championship, I mean, imagine Kyle Larson and, say, Denny Hamlin racing the way that Bowman and Larson were, one charging, one on the defense for a championship. It's a lot better than like Phoenix, So I don't think this disqualifies in any way Homestead's viability for a really great venue of a championship race. I don't. I know that's going to be the discourse this week. I know the rumors have come out November 1st, which a lot of people are like, that's too early for a finale. It's like, well, the finale this year is November 2nd. So I guess, at least look. I'll give it this, a lot of people are going to say this. Fox definitely was talking up Larson just because it's a good storyline. He's a popular driver. They're going to do that. They do it for Chase Elliott. They did it for Dale Earnhardt Jr. back in the day. Tony Stewart, Jeff Gordon, like this. This is, and it's annoying. I get it. If you're not a Kyle Larson diehard, it's annoying. But that's, of the list of things for Fox, that is the lowest. Though we got better than IndyCar fans did today. They got stuck with Thermal Club, and then the power went out there, and they got to watch a stage of the NASCAR race. There's a lot of bad with Fox, and granted, that wasn't a Fox thing, but I guess we found out how it could be worse. I was at Gateway last year, 2 years ago, whenever the power went out and everyone lost the broadcast. So it could be worse. But on the other end, let's talk about Ryan Blaney. On my end, I'll pull up his stats on the year. He's been fast. When you think of Ryan Blaney this year, it has been speed. That 12 team has been fast. They've made up, every time you're seeing them when they're not blowing up, they're racing to the front. They're making passes. But this is the third straight DNF of the first 6 races now. 3 straight DNFs. He had an engine failure at Phoenix, a crash last week at Las Vegas, another engine failure this week. Led tons of laps, led 124 on the day. But you add in that 19th place finish at COTA, and he's not in the hole. Because I'll look on my end. Heading in today, Ryan Blaney was 8th on the grid plus 29. He's going to be right on that cut line. I'm not worried. I think that he's definitely going to be up there when all things are said and done. But I'm agreeing with a lot of you guys, in general. We'll talk more about Blaney. But I'm agreeing with you guys, like 750, 900 horsepower, I'd take it. NASCAR don't want it. But on the Blaney side of things, it's another rough break. He has speed. I'm not worried about him. He has had speed pretty much in just about every race this year. And the more that you have speed and you bring that speed to the track, the law of averages will work itself out. And we've seen this before. We've seen this was the narrative last year. I fell for the, oh my God, the sky is falling. And then he goes out and wins a race. So, this early in the season still, and I get that we're now in the back half of March. We're heading to Martinsville for the last race of March this next week. But I'm not worried. If he starts running 15th to 20th all day and we start seeing those kind of issues and he's blowing engines, then okay, we can start worrying. But blowing engines while leading 124 laps or running up towards the front, top 5, top 10 all day at Phoenix and here at Homestead, I don't see any reason for concern. But the margin of error, the more and more you pile these bad runs on, gets worse, get smaller and smaller, and you're starting to go into that, oh crap, we need to start winning territory. Looking at some of the other big moments of the race, and some of the other big kind of talking points of this race, finishing order, all of that, another great run for Bubba Wallace. One of the most put together runs for him, I think, since his last win at Kansas, I believe it was. Yes, because I've been at both of Bubba Wallace's career Cup wins. Another very solid, well put together day for that team. This is, not the greatest start, of course, that any 23-11 team has had, but 23-11 always starts really slow in the season. So to see some really good speed early on in the year, when this team is going to start gelling more and it's going to start moving their way up. The 23 car was the fastest of the 23-11 guys out there. And I get Tyler Reddick 8th. That's bad for him. And we're like, oh man, that's not Tyler Reddick like, but 23-11, I think is looking overall. Now don't count Riley Herbst into this, cause he's definitely further back. But overall, the top two 23-11 teams, I think this is the best start speed-wise they've put together in a long time. Looking at the points heading in here again, I think Bubba Wallace had he fallen out at that point? No, he's 12th coming into this on the grid. When you count all the winners, Reddick up, top winless guy so far on the year. His name did not start with the letter B. Didn't have a silent B like Carson Hocevar either, and I don't think that worked. He was not Tyler Reddick. It was Tyler Reddick. SVG, and I see it in here too, JK Speed talking about SVG, terrible start to the year, fully expected. Like, unless he snuck a win at Daytona or Atlanta somehow, or a good finish there, Coda was his only shot early in the year until about Mexico, where we're like looking at him as an actual threat and contender. Brad Keselowski, another slow run for Brad Keselowski today. I believe a 26th place finish, a lap down. He was the last one the leaders lapped at the end there. Not very good either. Ty Gibbs, another poor run. Not very good either. It's just, you're starting to see who's piling on and who's going to be more and more in trouble. Kyle Busch, today's run, just, I got my 8 hat on because it's the nice Dale Jr. stuff that came out, but not a good race for driver 8 in this one either. Looking at some of the other things that happened today, there were really, I'd say, 3 or 4 cars that were good all day. Homestead is a race and a track especially, but the races at Homestead, there's tons and tons of changes through the day. And you see guys that are comers and goers, is the old saying, guys that are good in the short-term runs and good in the long runs. Bubba Wallace and that 23 team, really good in the short runs today. Their goal on that last restart is get as far as hell out there, build up a big lead, and play defense when everybody is charging up at the end. Whereas guys like Alex Bowman, Kyle Larson, I'd even say Ryan Blaney when he, before he blew up, Denny Hamlin, those are the guys that long run, build it up as it goes, catch on up. And sometimes it doesn't make the greatest races. Sometimes, unlike last year, sometimes like this year, it doesn't all come together for just a complete banger finish, last lap pass, all of that good stuff. Other times, like last year, it does. So, I'll put the poll out there because it's been the discourse. It's been the discourse on here. It's been the discourse on Twitter. It's been the discourse with the rumors this weekend that Homestead would get the 2026 finale. So I'm going to put a poll in here, and I'm just going to ask you guys straight up, yes or no, should Homestead get the 2026 finale? And you let me know what you think in the poll, in the chat, all of that. But looking early in the race, kind of going a little bit more when it comes to the race itself. Alex Bowman starts in the pole. This is probably one of the best put together races by that 48 team, who is always under the radar, always is getting overlooked, always is having somebody that's a free agent that everyone's like, this guy should be in the 48. Another really good run for Alex Bowman through and through today. The laps led will definitely show it. 43 laps led. And if you've followed what I've talked about Alex Bowman through his time at Hendrick Motorsports, his biggest problem is he does not run at the front. He doesn't lead laps. He doesn't get stage points. He doesn't really run up front till the end, which that worked pre-2017. Pre-2017, showing up and having your best at the end, that works. But nowadays, you have to be so good early in the race. You have to position yourself early. You have to lead laps. And of course, to win races, you have to lead laps. And Alex Bowman did that today. Starts on the pole, leads a little bit of the race. First stage, I believe he finishes second, so that's 9 points right there for him. Second stage, Bowman finishes sixth, so that's 5 more. That's 14 points extra that he wasn't getting. A second place run, running right up there at the end, competing for another win. That's the recipe for taking them to the next level. And Hendrick Motorsports is a team that's elite. I don't care what driver it is. They're expected to go out there and win. They're expected to go out there and compete. And Alex Bowman, for a lot of people, hasn't done that. Well, he's not the fourth Hendrick car by a wide margin. I think there's a real conversation this year when it comes to all-around speed. 5, 48, 24. I think you'll probably put the 5 at the top of that. 24 has definitely been there, been a little hit or miss at times, but has been there for the most part. And the 48's been there as well. It's a 9 car that is off on an island right now. And I've been a Chase Elliott advocate. I'm not going to jump off the boat and say that he's terrible like everybody else has been saying. But today was a little concerning at times. It was concerning to see Elliott not really being able to crack the top 10 all that much. It was concerning seeing him finish 18th and get worse as the day went on. Because these are the races that in the playoff side of it, in the rest of the season, like these are the races you can make up a ton of points as if you're a Hendrick car, if you're a Gibbs car, 2311. These are the tracks you guys run good at. But Alex Bowman, man, he put together a solid all-around day. I can't think outside of a weird restart or strategy play or something like that. I can't think of a point that Alex Bowman wasn't running top 10 and near the top 5 today. And that's a great step for that team. And like I said, led early. Blaney was the car to beat for the opening half of this race. It seemed like a lot of them caught up later in the race, and you had guys that were getting faster as the race went on, of course. And like I said, the track changes, the race changes, what you need changes as a driver. Blaney definitely early on was the man. They had green flag pit stops, and by the end of it, Ryan Blaney, I think I had notes here, was up by like 8 seconds or something like that. Just flying. And no, the rookie 9 with the Chase Elliott picture right there. Chase is not washed. Maybe it's a slump. Maybe it's just where he slots in as the fourth Hendrick guy. He's not washed. Brad Keselowski, I'm just going to say this now, kind of saw this coming. End of the year, wasn't running very well. Wasn't running very well at the start of this year. I didn't pick him to make the playoffs this year. That's another one that you could talk about. We'll probably have those conversations this Wednesday on Eric's channel for NWP. So be sure to watch because it's going to be a fun conversation. I'm sure we'll ruffle some feathers, but I don't think Elliott's washed. I just think that he doesn't have that winning speed. And again, I brought it up, and you guys, a lot of your guys' reactions are perfectly encapsulating what I've been saying. Your expectation at Hendrick Motorsports is to win. Chase Elliott won a ton. At the start of the next gen era, he was the best one out there that first half of 2022. So maybe a little bit of a slump when it comes to Hendrick standards, but not doing bad at all. I believe he's like 6th in points or something like that. That's not washed. 30th in points and not improving anymore. Like Brad Keselowski, that's one that you could, I think, have a conversation about, but it's so early in the year still, it could still be jumping the shark on it. And there's plenty of time to go. Um, but the stage ends with a late stage restart. Christopher Bell spins off a 4, brings the caution out. Ryan Blaney ends up firing off, getting the win over Alex Bowman in the stage. Third was Briscoe, then Larson and Cindric, top 5. Cindric needed that because I believe Cindric finished something like 19th. He was right there with Chase. Sixth for Byron, AJ Allmendinger, solid run today. He finishes 7th, and he came home 7th. Ran about there all day. When I saw AJ Allmendinger, Tyler Reddick, it was like the battle for 7th and 8th every time. But this is his best track. And there's a reason I put AJ Allmendinger on my fantasy team this week, because I knew he'd be a solid top 10 pick. And you look at the guys ahead of him, and those are guys we expected to perform. Those are guys that go to 1.5 miles, or those are guys who are really starting to pile it on. Priest up there, a 9th place finish for him. Looking through the rest of the top 10, though, in the first stage, Barry 8th, 9th Gregson, 10th Joey Logano. Logano has been a stage point merchant this year. That's really what's been helping him out. Leads tons of laps, gets stage points, all of that. But that's your stage 1 finish. We have a bit of strategy in stage 2, and it ends up working out for him. So everybody pits. Bowman first one out, but the 77 of Carson Hocevar stays out on older tires. Reminder, they had like 10 laps since the caution to the end of stage 1, like a 5-6 lap run, whatever. Definitely a warn, and he definitely fell back and floundered right off the bat on the restart, but he kind of slotted himself in around that 9th to 13th place range in the run when the tires equalized. Of course, Bowman fires out and Blaney passes him again, and it's kind of like a trend we'll see. But again, pretty clean and green for the most part of this race. This is also where, and I alluded to it earlier, this is also where we saw the IndyCar broadcast just completely go down. And I can't wait to see David Land's reaction. I know if anyone is on his DL 500 club, I know he was doing a live race reaction today, and I have a feeling that man was not very happy. Timing and scoring stayed up, from what I could tell. But there was a good portion of the IndyCar race that went down. Sounds like power went out at the entire thermal facility. And you already add the fact that IndyCar fans hate that. And you're not getting a good recipe for success when it comes to winning people over and having that be a points race. A lot of people want to go back to Texas, I believe it is what they're pointing for. Now I want to point this out, and I'm not trying to put you guys on blast on this. Because Fox put NASCAR on main Fox for the second stage while that was all happening. I'm like, hey, we got an extra Fox races here, man. How about that? But I'll put Eric on here. I'm not trying to put you on blast, but Fox is trying to destroy motorsports. I don't think it was a Fox issue. And one, I know it's not a Fox issue. It sounds like it was a thermal issue, because IndyCar with IMS Productions does their broadcasts. They're the ones who create and produce and push out the broadcast for IndyCar racing, similar to what NASCAR is doing with the CW. So I'm not trying to put you on blast, but I will be honest to Fox on the IndyCar side. Now the NASCAR side, awful. I get that some of you guys are probably mishearing what I'm saying about it. Yes, it was garbage. That's Fox's standard. It's been awful all year. So there is that. But it's a rough start to the year for Fox Sports in general with racing. They had a bright spot at St. Pete with IndyCar, but the NASCAR stuff's been bad. Trucks it's been bad since they killed Speed. Speed died for this, by the way. It's just not been very good. We're all counting down the days till Prime, and then a lot of other people are going to still complain about that. We get green flag pit stops. Goes for the most part on brand, but Suarez does spin into the pits. We stay green because he's in the pits and all of that. And you did have a little tire strategy playing out. I believe Denny Hamlin and Kyle Larson pitted later on in the cycle, and because of that, they were like 10 seconds or so back, but they were able to fly up towards the front. And this is where Homestead shines to me, is you see these guys who might not be able to pass all of the guys ahead of them because of pure speed. Again, we have a spec car. These cars NASCAR does not want domination. They want parity. And I know that's nice in theory, but sometimes we need that delineation between who's good and who's not. And we get this with the tires at Homestead. And we saw this last year. We've seen this every year at Homestead, where people will do different strategies. They'll stay out 10 laps longer, give up 5 or 6 seconds, but they get that 5 or 6 seconds on the run. They get that 5 or 6 seconds as it goes on, as it ends out. And that's what I enjoy about it. And that's what we got in a lot of ways with the option tire at Phoenix, which is, again, Goodyear is coming to save the day for NASCAR's mistakes. And with this, my point on all this is, while up front, William Byron has caught Ryan Blaney and they're battling for the lead. The 11 and the 5 are catching them. They get past both of them and they have a side-by-side run at the end, I believe behind Cole Custer, who was trying to stay on the lead lap, side-by-side to the line. Denny Hamlin wins stage 2 over Larson, Blaney, Byron, Bubba. Lots of B's, 3 B's back there. Then and 4 with Bowman, then Cindric, Elliott, Hocevar, and Reddick. Again, Elliott had, been up there a bit, but just bringing that up, again, gonna be interesting to watch. It's gonna be interesting to watch the Hendrick fans, how y'all go back and forth on that together, because I know that you guys can be very, very fun with that. Let's see. And you know what? Andrea brings up a great point. NASCAR should stream the races on YouTube. Totally agree. 100% agree. They should be streaming on YouTube. They were doing that for a couple of races. I think Coda was one of them they were doing that with. And I was sitting in there by the end of stage 2, when they ended it off, there was like 60,000 people watching. You just can imagine too, that the revenue money that NASCAR can bring on off of, if they promoted that, of having like 300, 400, 500,000 people watching a live stream on there, and it would only be a snowball effect, because if there's proof of concept that it would work, YouTube would promote NASCAR for doing so. So that's definitely something that probably can't be done for full races until probably the end of this contract, if the networks ever allow. And they'd probably want it on their channel rather than NASCAR's. But that's definitely something like past 2031 needs to be shown. Totally. And by the way, yeah, this would be funny. NASCAR getting super chats and stuff like that. And let's see. Yeah, Milton here says IMSA streams their races on YouTube for those outside the US. Been a huge positive so far. And IMSA, owned by NASCAR, can be at times a testing dummy for NASCAR and what they do in the future. Maybe that's something you do. And if you get a VPN, you can watch NASCAR races on YouTube. All right. So, and you don't have to search out, because they might have commercials, but usually on those ones, you'll just hear what they did on Coda is you heard the NASCAR and Fox theme as they go to commercial, and then they just show the Fox and international feed. And that was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. And I know you guys are going to be all, it's not happening, and boo-hoo, and, all that. But we've seen so much stuff change recently, and we've seen it over time. This is the direction we're going in over time. And if it's worked for that, and it works for international stuff, it's that's something that eventually will be phased in, whether it's Fox Sports streaming it, whether if Prime has their channel on YouTube that streams it or something like that, whether it's the truck series, maybe that's the testing dummy. What I have learned is you never say never on any of this stuff. Never say never on progress when it comes to it. While the suits might get in the way of it, eventually progress, sometimes forcefully, has to work its way through, and we end up getting a lot of that stuff. If I had told you 3 years ago we were going to have NASCAR races streamed on a streaming service, you would have rolled your eyes and said I was crazy and stupid. That could only work for like the NFL, and that there's no way that someone would shell out that much money. And now we're in the streaming era with so many other sports. So many things can change, and if there's money to be made and there's eyes to be gained, that will definitely happen. So I don't know, kind of going off on a tangent on that one, but that's something I think that they should do. And I'm wondering, because they did it for the Fox races, I'm wondering if they'll do it for Talladega as well. And that'll be really interesting to see what can happen with that one. The final stage, though, we get it back going. It's the 11 and the 5, and those were probably the two that I think had the best cars starting out that stage, as the 12 had kind of fallen back a little bit. You had Larson go to the lead, 4 wide racing in the pack. The restarts, to me, is what I think is going to elevate this race for a lot of people. The finish as well probably will do that. But Bubba Wallace, he takes the lead right after. and he's off and away leading a couple laps. Hocevar loses power at this point, and Hocevar had parlayed that really good strategy they had where they had, gone off and made their way back up into the top 10. He was top 10 when the power went out of that machine. And I think that Homestead, if you want a value pick or a value top 10 bet, it's Carson Hocevar you got to choose for that one. Because it seems like him and Allmendinger, this is their track. It works really well. Yes, as an Napa Racing fan, Hocevar with a silent B in the front of his name was not so lucky today, unfortunately. But of course, the race must go on, and it goes on for a little bit for Ryan Blaney before he blows an engine under commercial for so many, and just basically kills every mosquito in the area, just smoking out the place. Second blown engine in 3 weeks, led 124 of the first 207 laps. I mean, pretty dominant performance. Again, the card kind of went away a little bit, but it's not to say that he was completely out of it. Strategies as well as working on short run versus long run could have done a lot of fixing when it came to a lot of that. But again, not gonna worry too much about it, other than the fact that when you look at that gap he had is gone now, and he'll be like on that firing line for a little bit until he gets a win or puts a few good runs together. Not worried at all. Brian Blaney, of all the Penske guys, I'm least worried about. I think they have the speed. I think they'll get right back. I know Bill here saying, can Ryan get a break? Recently, no, but bad luck runs its course eventually. And if you have speed, you're gonna definitely be able to have that happen. But we get it back going with 51 to go. Bubba Wallace, Kyle Larson in the lead, 4 wide for the lead at one point again, and the 23 gets it. Tough road and run for third in the back as Bowman, I think it was, got by. Larson scraping the wall nonstop, running this baby like it's Darlington, giving it the stripe. He's going to be really fun to watch at Darlington, and so are these cars. Of course, Darlington in general is really fun to watch. But you start having those battles for the lead build up again. About 33 to go. The 48 catches the 23. Bowman side by side, pulls a bit of a slider off 3 and 4, takes the lead. And for a little bit, Bubba Wallace stayed with them. Just didn't have the long run speed in that 23 car to keep up with the 48 and the Hendrick Motorsports machines in general. He is kind of saving his stuff, hoping that Bowman would fall back to him and the race would fall into his hands. And that was enough to keep him up into the third spot, but he was no match for Bowman's 48 long run speed and for Kyle Larson, who had saved his stuff a bit. With 16 to go, you see Larson charging. He charges up to 5th, charges up to 4th past the 19 of Briscoe. And with about 14 to go there, gets up to 2nd with 10 to go. He's flying, and it's a collision course. Kyle Larson, Alex Bowman going for it. Larson gets into the wall at one point, I believe, with about 7 or 6 to go in 1 and 2. Bowman gets into the wall in 3 and 4. Bowman's is more catastrophic to the momentum and the speed that he had built up, especially where in the corner it happened. And Larson gets by, takes the win by, what was it, about a second or so, 1.2 seconds. And Kyle Larson is your winner. Kyle Larson locked into the playoffs. You name all of that, it's the Kyle Larson show. And again, Kyle Larson is one bad Sam Mayer push away from having a total weekend sweep. And, I put that poll up a while ago. 88% of you still want to keep want to have the finale in 2026 at the Homestead Miami Speedway. So I'll put one more poll up. And it's just this: best race of the weekend. You hear the little rat dog barking. And I'm going to put, the 3 options here. Jesus Christ. I think that dog, after 15 years or whatever, would know that, who everybody is. Let's start the poll here, though. Let me know what you think the best race of the weekend is. I'm interested to see where y'all rate it. I think I'd probably put Trucks, honestly. I think Trucks might have been the best race of the weekend if you watched all of them. That, I guess Fox nailed it on the head. That was the one to put on. There you go. Yeah, bark, bark, bark for old Cocoa Puff. Good old Coco. How's it going? What's up, Iceberg? Kyle Larson's up. He's up the leaderboard. Nigel here saying Homestead is so overrated. I disagree, but I get why people say that. So let's see, as it's going, Trucks is winning, and then Cup, and then Xfinity. Yes, Cocoa for Cocoa Puffs. Yes. Bark, bark, bark. Is that my dog? No, it's my brother's dog. But she's a good dog. She's a good pup. Let's look at these super chats. Let's finish off on the, I guess, super chat, not stage break. I guess super chat green white checker. I don't know. We gotta think of a good name for this one. Andrew Winslow. A couple of these from before I won't be able to put on the screen, but Andrew Winslow for the 5 says NASCAR is no big loser this week. Fox is, because they lost the signal in the IndyCar race at a country club. Maybe race at a real track for fans. Yeah, probably would probably make a lot of IndyCar fans very, very happy. Hunter Nixon Fishing for the 5 says, happy Larson fan tonight. Let's go. Congratulations. Enjoy the dub. Ill here, or 3. I never have gotten how to pronounce your name, or if I have, my dumbass has forgotten it. 7 out of 10 race, 10 out of 10 butt hurt chat in chat. Yeah, there's a lot of butt hurt. SK Ables for the 2 says 48 in the lead with 4 to go. So upsetting. So yeah, last 5 laps or so. I really think had that not happened, we would have had a pretty really fun, pretty good race, all things considered. I still think Larson probably would have got it at the end, but I think they would have raced cleanly, and it would have been a lot of fun to watch. SW with the 5 says, this race was pretty much a 6 out of 10 for me. It has its moments, but felt bad for Blaney. Like, damn, the engine blowing up. Also, Bubba fought so hard, but not enough. Yeah, he just didn't have enough long run pace to keep up with those Hendrick machines, unfortunately, for him at least. The Sonic 24 says, it's official. Chase is the 4th best Hendrick car. Running mid-teens while all 3 of his teammates were top 10 all day is unacceptable. It's definitely, I think, these 1.5 mile races are a litmus test as to where your team is, and the 9 team just isn't up to it yet. I think they can. I think Chase is a good enough driver to be, but it's getting more and more, I'd say more and more apparent every week that the 9 car has some work to do. We've seen this before where teams that are really good fall off at the end of the year and vice versa. It could very well happen. We still got 30 points races to go. We have plenty of time for you Hendrick fans, but it's time to face reality for some of you. Reverend Rasheem Hall Stewart with the 2 says, is Kyle Larson the best driver so far this decade? Chat. Why don't we put that? Why for yes and for no? Is Kyle Larson the best driver of the 2020s NASCAR decade yet? I'd say probably yeah. I don't think it's as big a distance as some people say. I think you got to put Bell up there. But I'd say yes, not driver. Yes. We know what he was saying though. West Virginia for the 5 says, gutted for Bowman, but I'll take second, and being the leader in top 10s. Also, Hendrick 1, 2, 3, 6 in points. Weird saying Elliott is the worst Hendrick car. I mean, just by the numbers, he would be. But Hendrick, again, really good. If Elliott's running 10th, there's a good chance his other Hendrick teammates are running, 1st, 4th, and 5th, or 2nd, 3rd, and 6th, or whatever it might be. But I do think they have some work to do. I think the points, because of stage points, because of how people have issues, because of the heavy way down still of Daytona and Atlanta and Coda, it's not fake or Mickey in who's really good or who isn't. It's just a little bit of a mirage right now. Bryce with the 1 month member chat. And is that, let's see. Oh, who's cute puppy? I believe is it a Joe Burrow jersey? Can't tell. But says Larson wins. Yay. Attendance. Oh boy. Yeah. That was probably being generous, 40% full. And Homestead holds like 40,000 or so. I did the math earlier. It'd be something like 16, 17,000 people. For anyone who was kind of watched some of those other Homestead races, and I know a lot of people who have been to Homestead races and have told me, like, if it's not, no, it's not the wildfires. If it's not the finale, you're not going to get a ton of people showing up. You're going to get people looking at other things and stuff like that, because there's a lot of stuff to do. So, I'm not surprised. I think the only way the Homestead ever sells out again is if you give it the finale, because then it's a big deal and the city's promoting it and all that other stuff. Big rumor this past week that was the case, that they were going to be the finale. Heard that they were actually really close to maybe an announcement. Don't know for sure. That's at least the rumblings and all of that, but might be something with the city or something like that. We'll see. But if you're doing the betting, if you're betting with somebody, if there's a market out there, put your money on Homestead being the finale next year, and probably November 1st, depending on which way the schedule aligns. Remember, the finale is November 2nd this year, so it's not out of the question for it to be November 1st. For a lot of people keep saying, like, there's no way, that's so early. It's like, no, who cares? We get our 36 races, our 2 non-points races. We get all our races. We can end a little earlier in the year and build up some hype, if NASCAR knew how to build up hype, through the offseason to Daytona again. Sorry, that's a whole nother rant for a whole nother day. Daniel here says Kyle Larson won before Kyle Busch. Not shocked. I'm sorry. Sad to say, not shocked. Alex for the 2 says Kyle Blarson. Yes. Yeah. Apparently his name has a B start at the end. It's just silent. There's so many that they're like, Dale Bernhardt and Dale Bernhardt Jr. Let's see. Sly Supersonic with 5 says, I'm sorry, but a decent finish does not overlook a mediocre race. 5 out of 10 will be all this race deserves. Lord, I hate the Gen 7 car with the fiery passion. I have been able to tell, Sly Supersonic, for years. You've been in here with the slander of the next gen. I'd give it a 6, though. I think there was still some positive from it, but I think it's definitely clear that the next gen, the teams have figured it out after 4 years. And again, we're not going to get a banger every year like we did last year. That's just how it is. Hunter Nixon Fishing with the 5 says, I'm starting to agree with Eric more and more. I like Harvick with Boyer less and less. I think Harvick by himself with Mike Joy would be a lot better. Probably. But Harvick, again, they got to give him some training. Harvick definitely needs to be somebody that you gotta train him up a little bit, because he's a very low key, mellow person when you don't amp him up. Maybe I don't know, maybe give him like a shot before the race, so he's like out there. Because like Kyle Busch, when he was on to the CW, he wasn't like going crazy or bringing all the energy, but at the same time, he was still really good up there and analytical, call people out for different things, stuff like that. So I'd be all for getting him maybe some extra training on that, because Mike Joy is not as great as he used to be up in the booth, but he's still bringing a pretty solid A-B game for the most part. Has his slip ups, I get that. Age is going to do that to anyone, but I just Harvick was so good to start with, and it seems like they kind of just plateaued his development. It's kind of like when you look at a driver or someone in sports where you're like, they were doing great and the development plateaued and the learning curve got them or something like that. Jason with the 548 says, will this finally stop the replace Bowman chatter? The guy wins at least one race every year. Yeah, I mean, he won 4 races in 2021. He, other than the year he broke his back, has been a top 10 driver. I'm sick of the Bowman slander, personally. Like, it was a fun little meme for a while there, but like, we're 5-6 years into the same thing. The guy performs better than all but maybe 5 or 6 guys, on any given week or any given season. Maybe, he's generally a top 10 guy. And he's been showing up with a lot of speed this year. Like, I'm all for it. Let's stop with the replace Bowman chatter. There's nobody else in the pipeline right now that has a direct line to that 48 car that should be going there. There's no free agent that I think will outperform him next year. Yes, I'm all for it. Stop the replace Bowman chatter or rumors or all that. I get it's a fun joke, but there's people that like, there's a lot of people, and I'd say maybe even the majority of the people that say that are legitimately thinking that, and I just find it stupid. You know what? Like, if you're looking at performance, like, should we start doing the replace Chase? No, because he's popular and we know how good he is, and we give him his flowers for that. So let's give Bowman the same grace at least. And this, like I said, I don't have really any favorite driver. Like, I love McDowell's supremacy and having fun with that. But at the end of the day, like, let's let guys that are performing well get their flowers for it. And he generally does. He's leading the series in top 10 so far. He's been consistent. And we were saying last week, like, all he needs to start doing is getting some top 5s, leading laps, second place finish, leading laps, leading at the end, a race in his hands. Did he choke it? Yeah, I think you could argue that he choked it, getting into the wall. Kyle Larson bearing down on him. Like a lot of drivers do that. Kyle Larson has choked races before. We've seen Denny Hamlin do it plenty of times. Harvick did it back in the day. The best do that at times. That might be the next step is to close out more races when you're up at the front. But I'll put it like this: of the Hendrick drivers right now, like Alex Bowman is much closer to championship contention than Chase Elliott is. He's much closer than a majority of the guys over at Gibbs are right now. Like, just saying. I'm just saying. Justin here left a couple of them. Says Bowman and choking a combo like no other. To a degree, but at the same time, the narrative for a long time was that Bowman gets Mickey wins. And because he'd get a win right at the end and he'd be at the right place at the right time. So narratives change. But this week, I'd say generally, he kind of choked that one away. He choked that one away. Alex here says Blaney's engine blew up right in front of me. Foggy. Oh, damn. Yeah, I saw that view from the spotter stand that Fox showed. Really good camera to cover that. And the stands just got covered in smoke. One of the craziest experiences when you sit in the stands is when you're sitting right next to like somebody and you're not and you don't like see them at all. A couple more super chats here and we will be done. I promise. Justin Drake here says Mike Joy and Jamie Little really gave the kiss of death to Bubba, Bowman, and Briscoe. Jamie said that Briscoe may have a shot. And Mike Joy goes, the top three have not won here in recent history. Yeah, the announcer jinx is oh so true. And then the most recent one from my mom, mother of all icebergs. Hey, Mom. Glad to see you're watching. For the 10 says dinner is almost ready. Yes, I heard my grandparents arrived. That's why the dog was barking away. That is the last one at the moment. I appreciate it. I appreciate everybody coming in here. I know it wasn't the most fun race for a lot of people. I know that there's been much better ones, and especially this year, but it's we have those races. I'm very interested to see what happens this coming week at Martinsville. I love Martinsville. It's my favorite track. Especially my favorite one that's not a hometown track or a sentimental one from growing up. So I can't wait to see that. We'll be live this Wednesday on Eric Estep's channel for NWP. Cannot wait to see you there. Ross Crash Stain left a super here saying, friendly reminder, this is the first Larson Bowman 1-2 that Larson's come out on top. Yeah. So, hey, man, I will join Danny B in the Alex Bowman Defenders Club on that one. I'll be right there with them. And yes, that's true. Thank you, Blue Jimmy. We have a guest. Breakheart will be joining us. So that should be a lot of fun hearing his takes. He's another one that we love having guests on like him and like Jet and others that just are not willing to hold back their opinions. And I can't wait to see what his is on all of this. I have a feeling we're going to have a lot of people having some fun with those this week. So be sure to check it out. Thank you guys so much for coming in. I will see you all this week and have a great night. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Later, y'all. I'm going to go have dinner.